Happy NFL trade deadline day, and on today's morning episode of Miami Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, we are going to break down the latest rumors surrounding this team on if they will add a player to the roster, will they trade someone away. Either way, with the deadline being 4 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to have the latest surrounding the Miami Dolphins before that deadline. And on today's show, we're going to be looking at some targets for the Miami Dolphins. Who are some names that could pop up that the Dolphins actually acquire? And you might be asking, why the heck are we talking about adding players to this Dolphins roster? Well, it's certainly not my idea, but Drew Rosenhaus went on his weekly hit on a South Florida network and said that Chris Grier and the Dolphins have been very active in making phone calls, and he does not expect the Dolphins by any means to give up on the season, which would imply that they are looking to add to the roster, because if they're on the phones making calls, talking to other GMs, but they're not selling, well, that means only one thing. I don't get it. But whatever. That's kind of my thing. Like, I would do one of two things. One, the first thing I would do is sell, because you're 2-6, and this team has no hope of making a run in the postseason if you miraculously even won 8 of your last 9 to go 10-7 and make the postseason. But you're not going anywhere in the playoffs. So if you're not going to sell, just do nothing then. Don't waste draft picks in the future to get players now that will ultimately not change anything unless you are making a trade that helps you in the future. If I see a trade notification from Miami that they added a player to the team that's a 1-year deal and they have no plans to re-sign them or extend them, I am going to absolutely freak out. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because we will break down all Miami Dolphins news and rumors today. It's a very busy day in the National Football League. If anything happens surrounding the Dolphins, we'll have you covered first, more than anyone else, so make sure you are subscribed. And if they don't make a move, we'll still drop a video later detailing what did and didn't happen in the NFL around the Dolphins. All right, the first target we're going to talk about today for Miami is Azeez Ojulari, the edge rusher for the New York Giants. He is someone that is very much the top target potentially for a lot of teams in the NFL. He's 24 years old. He's going to be a free agent. He's having what looks to be a career year this season in New York on limited opportunities. He's recently got a big, at least, promotion in terms of opportunities with Kayvon Thibodeau injured. And if the Dolphins are going to add someone, I think he is my number one target, because the number one need on this Miami Dolphins roster is edge rusher. They have been atrocious at getting after the quarterback. They have 10 sacks through their first 8 games. They are second worst in all of football in bringing down opposing quarterbacks, and Ojulari would provide an immediate spark to this pass rush. We mentioned him having a career year. He has 6 sacks through 9 games. His best season came back in 2021 when he had 8 sacks. So he's on pace to break that. Sure, he is not the best in terms of stopping the run, setting the edge. That is what his biggest knock has been over the course of his career. But he is a straight up pass rusher and would likely be the best pass rusher on Miami right now, with Bradley Chubb still on the PUP list and Jalen Phillips on IR. And the one thing with him, though, is that I mentioned he is a free agent coming up. And I did just say that I'm not looking to make a trade for someone that is going to be in free agency this upcoming year if you do not plan to extend him. But you can treat this as almost a fresh start or a head start on NFL free agency. He's 24 years old. He's going to get a multi-year contract in free agency because he is an ascending player that is having the best season in a walk year. And with him being so young, you can get him in your group. You can really evaluate him and see if you want to have him long-term with your organization, because we know there is a possibility that Bradley Chubb gets dealt in the offseason due to his large cap hit of $20+ million. Jalen Phillips has yet to get a contract extension, and with multiple big-time injuries, torn Achilles, now this knee injury, there is uncertainty on his future with this team. Maybe Ojulari could be one of the young guys that the Dolphins invest in long-term at this edge group. So the question is, what would it cost you to get Ojulari? And I made this last night. Not this video, I'm filming it this morning, but I put this note in here, and it might have changed. I talked to our Giants Now host here, Marshall Green, at Chat Sports, and he said he believes the compensation could be anywhere between a third and a fifth. And the Giants reportedly have had a lot of calls on Ojulari and have not been willing to budge on their price point, which remains relatively high considering some of the other edge rushers that moved. Baron Browning went for a sixth. Josh Uche went for a sixth. We saw Zadarius Smith go this morning for a fifth and a sixth, as well as a seventh going back. So the trade compensation for edge rushers is a lot in flux right now. It feels like that comp might be closer to a fourth or fifth round pick, certainly not a day two pick. And I would be willing, if there was one player to go out and buy, if you're the Miami Dolphins, if it only cost you a fifth round pick to acquire Azeez Ojulari, I think I would be willing to do that if I was Chris Grier. What say you? We're talking a lot about edge rushers and defensive players today. What's the biggest Dolphins position of need? If they had to go out and acquire a player, not saying that I want them to do that, want that on the record, but if they did add a player, what position should it be? Well, we're going to stay with the edge rushers here, folks, and we're going to go to Chase Young, the edge rusher from New Orleans, who's also on a one-year deal. And I put him on here because he's one of the edge rushers named as someone who could be dealt. I don't really see this one being an option for Miami. One, his price point's a little bit high. It's $13 million for the season. Now, it would be not as much as you'd have to take in and pay for the rest of the season and be prorated, obviously. But Young is someone who, as much as he's talented, former top 3 pick, number 2 overall, he's a freak of nature at 6'5", 265. He has been bounced around from team to team over the past couple of seasons. New Orleans, San Francisco, obviously Washington, unable to find a home. He takes plays off at times. He's not that good in the run game. Sure, he can get after the passer a little bit, but he isn't as productive as an Azeez Ojulari in that fashion, only totaling 2 sacks this year, 18 tackles. So he is not high up on my list, and I doubt this comes to fruition. I don't even know if Chase Young will be traded from the New Orleans Saints today, and if he is dealt away, I doubt this is a type of player that Chris Grier would go after, but I did put him on here because he is a cheap edge rusher that you'd likely get in a deal at the deadline, and the Dolphins can use any help they can get at the edge position with Tyus Bowser, Quentin Bell not really doing much this season. Chop Robinson, I will say, coming on a little bit, had his best game of the year against Buffalo, and that comes after having his best game of the season against Arizona. So back-to-back weeks for the first-round pick out of Penn State, that it was his best games in back-to-back weeks. So maybe he's on the rise, but I might be out on Chase. But like I said, it would be cheap. 6th or 7th round pick is likely all it would cost to get the former 2nd overall pick. But I'm probably staying away from Chase Young. I just don't like his demeanor. I don't like his fit with this Dolphins football team. Make sure you do get Game Time. Download the app because they are the best way to get your tickets. They've got so many great features that make purchasing tickets so much easier, like Game Time picks. It filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They also have all-in pricing, which shows the total price of your ticket up front rather than getting blindsided at checkout. Get a panoramic view in the seat of your seat in the app before you buy. You will never, ever be led astray, bamboozled, Stephen A. Smith, whatever you want to say, about your ticket. You will know the vantage point. You will know if there's anything in front of you. It is why Game Time is the only ticketing app that I trust. So download the app today and use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase when you create an account. Terms apply, first purchase only, but CHATSPORTS gets you $20 off your first purchase. Links in the description and comments of today's video. What time is it? It's game time. How about a bit of a shocker and an aggressive one? And I don't think this guy even gets moved at the deadline, but you can be hopeful here. Devin Lloyd, the former first-round pick out of Utah, who is a Jacksonville Jaguar. And we have documented over the past couple of weeks how badly this linebacker group has struggled. And they eventually made the switch. Jordan Brooks has been your best linebacker all year long. David Long Jr. has been a bottom 10 linebacker in football. And they finally made the switch on the defense this past week against the Bills, playing Anthony Walker Jr. over David Long, and Long was benched. And even though Anthony Walker Jr. is someone I called for to get more PT, he still was not as effective as you'd like to see. And you might be thinking, well, maybe you add a linebacker to shore up this group and get a competent linebacker to help out Jordan Brooks. And I'll say this. Devon Lloyd, he's got his flaws for sure. Jags fans aren't always thrilled with him. He does make plays. He possesses sideline speed, 58 tackles this year, 1 sack. He's been graded out well from PFF. Now, after doing some little analytics searching, if you will, basically just looking up Jags fans and seeing what they had to say about Devin Lloyd on Twitter. They were not very happy with him, and they're happy to move on from him if a team gives them a good enough package. But like I mentioned, his PFF grades are fine. You saw him on screen. He's graded out 90 against the run. Coverage is in the mid-60s. Overall is just under 80. So PFF likes what they've seen from Lloyd. Jags fans haven't. But the reason why this is enticing to me is because David Long Jr. is a free agent after this season. Jordan Brooks was a 1-year deal. You're going to have to overhaul this linebacker room. Devin Lloyd is under contract in 2025 for $4.1 million, and there's a team option in 2026 because he was a first-round pick in 2022, so there's a lot left on this rookie contract. And I will tell you what, I think I would be willing to move off an early day 3 pick, if that's all it took, for Devin Lloyd. Now, I know we said we don't want to buy, but if you were buying with an eye towards the future to help the team now as well as in the next couple of seasons, like Devin Lloyd would be, and he'd be your projected linebacker 1 in the middle of that defense for the next couple of seasons, that I am okay with doing. Lloyd, someone that has been mentioned as a potential person on the trade block with Jacksonville struggling. If he is on the block and Miami has any idea of acquiring a linebacker, I think Devin Lloyd could be the guy. 4th or 5th round pick potentially might get the former 1st round pick out of Utah. Don't lie to me. Would you trade for Devin Lloyd? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Get down in the comment section and vote on if the Dolphins should trade for the former 1st round pick from Utah. All right, the final player we're going to talk about today is another edge rusher / outside linebacker, Arden Key, who, as of this morning, right before we're filming, it was reported by Jeremy Fowler or Dan Graziano, I can't remember off the top of my head. It was either way, it was ESPN, that Arden Key is someone that Tennessee would be willing to move off of if they got a good enough package. They are not in any hurry to trade Arden Key because he's actually been very good this year. In 206 pass rushing snaps, he has 19 pressures, 4 sacks, graded out at 73.3 by Pro Football Focus. He's been effective for the for the Tennessee Titans, would be the Miami Dolphins' best pass rusher. This kind of goes right back to what the point was with Azeez Ojulari. Yes, these guys are not going to be studs against the run, but you also already don't really have that many studs at edge rusher against the run. And with Chop Robinson still developing, Emmanuel Ogbah being banged up with that bicep injury, the primary pass rush that you have comes from the interior of Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer if they evidently get after the quarterback. You need something on the edge. Arden Key would be your best guy. He would also be under contract for next year. A little bit of a pricier tag compared to a guy like Devin Lloyd. It's $9.3 million for Arden Key. Maybe that scares Miami away, but the same point with Azeez Ojulari, that if you were going to trade for him and extend him to keep him around long term, that is going to be the price point for Ojulari, probably higher due to the fact that he is having a career year in a walk season. So no matter what you slice it up, you are going to have to pay for a pass rusher, and this team needs it desperately. So if Miami does ultimately add to this roster like Drew Rosenhaus suggested they may, I would look towards the edge rushers department, and I would look for the guys that we mentioned on today's show. And like I said earlier, make sure you are subscribed, because if the Dolphins do make a move, we will have you covered with a video right away. If they don't make a move, we will still have a video after the deadline breaking down who could have been got and why they didn't do anything and what's next for this Dolphins football team. So subscribe, and I'll see you later with another video.